Hello, everybody. Welcome to Fill the Glass episode 20. I'm Kerry Millsap. Today, I'm going to talk about the origin of the method called Method R. Method R was inspired by three pieces of writing. The point in history in which Jeff and I are the co-creators of Method R, and Jeff Holt is on the call, so I'm going to be asking him to say a word or two. But when when Jeff and I left Oracle in 1999 to start a new company called Hot Sauce, there was a business partner that I joined named Gary Goodman, and he and I founded the company. And Jeff was employee number two, I guess. Gary was one, Jeff was two, and I was three. And Jeff and I took it upon ourselves for the first couple of years. We did consulting work, but we also were trying to come up with a method that we could use for optimizing systems. And we didn't just want any old method for optimizing systems. We wanted an optimized method for optimizing systems. So a method for optimizing systems that was itself optimal. And we studied and worked, and really I teamed with Jeff on a lot of consulting engagements and watched what he did and tried to chronicle what he did, and did the Socrates thing of, why did you do that? Asked him a lot of questions. And over the years, it took us about 3 years to kind of refine this thing to get into the shape that it's ended up in the O'Reilly book. But the three books, well, the three pieces of work that really informed our progress, or the three big milestones, were these three books. And I can remember the day that I read Jon Bentley's chapter 1, and I thought, oh, this is it. This is the kind of data that we need to be able to show. And he called it a procedure time profile in the More Programming Pearls book. And that gave us the idea for this tabular sort of receipt for response time idea that we've been using ever since. And then the book in the middle, you've probably all read it. It's called The Goal by Eli Goldratt. It was harmonious with what I'd read with Jon Bentley. The book was so closely mapped to what we needed to accomplish. All you needed to do was change some of the nouns, and the principles are all the same. So the goal was absolutely earth-shifting. And then finally, many of you probably know the name Anjo Kolk. Anjo used to work at Oracle when we did, and when I was running a group of folks in the consulting organization, Anjo was kind of our development liaison. So when we needed to talk to somebody in server technologies about how the product worked, Anjo was our guy. And Anjo and Sherry Yamaguchi and Jim Viscusi wrote a paper back in 1999 or so. I think the paper was a couple years older than that, but the version I'm looking at here is 99, called the YAP method, the yet another performance profiling method. And this paper doesn't contain these three equations, but Jeff and I went to a conference in Denmark. It was our own, actually. We were teaching a hot sauce clinic in Copenhagen. And Jeff and I had some quiet time with Anjo, asking him questions that led us to realize that the format that Jon Bentley used and the goal that Eli Goldratt used, we could actually do the math in Oracle trace files and make this thing happen. So these are kind of the three legs of the triangle: Jon Bentley, Eli Goldratt, and Anjo Kolk, which resulted in eventually a book called Optimizing Oracle Performance. I just talked about the old fashioned method, which we were trying to replace, and I called it Method C because it's kind of a math style book. And, Exhibit 1, Exhibit 2 didn't sound right. So I called it Method C for the conventional approach and Method R for the response time based approach. We didn't have a company called Method R until 2008. But Method C was basically guess about stuff and try things. And if the things work, keep them. If they don't work, roll them back. And that is very inefficient because guesswork is never the straight path to, well, not often the straight path to the optimal solution. And then Method R was this thing where we actually focus on business problems and then collect properly scoped diagnostic data and then decide which thing is the most optimal to go do next, and then repeat. So that literally is the origin of Method R on the right. It was inspired by those 3 books doing our homework. And so the result is this fleet of things, the fleet of assets, I guess, that we've created. The book that I quoted on the prior page is the one on the left called Optimizing Oracle Performance, which was published in 2003. And it's I still read it today. I think it's a wonderful book, and it's weird for the author to say that, but every time I look at it and think how wonderful it is, I think about how awesome our editor Jonathan Gennick was. The book wouldn't have been nearly as wonderful without his participation. Anyway, I still learned by reading that Optimizing Oracle Performance book. It led to about 15 years later or so, a book that went through 3 editions, and it's currently in its 3rd, called Mastering Oracle Trace Data. This book is big and it's thick, and it's got a lot of information in it. It also describes how our Method R workbench works, which, if you don't like the looks of all this stuff down here, well, you don't have to understand it because the product understands it. And then, of course, you've been along for the ride on the Tracing Oracle book, which came out just a couple of weeks ago. And I'm happy to announce the new O'Reilly book, How to Make Things Faster, is available for electronic looking at the O'Reilly Media Learning Library, I think they call it. The Amazon process for getting the book ready takes a couple more weeks. So I expect that How to Make Things Faster will be available at Amazon probably by the end of this month, but we'll see. And that's the origin of Method R. Jeff is on and Gumi's on. And the reason that I mentioned Jeff and Gumi, of course, Jeff is a co-creator of this thing. And Gumi, he lived in both worlds. He lived in the Method C world for a little while and then came to us at Hot Sauce and then became immersed in the Method R world. And I don't know, Gumi, am I going to embarrass you or put you on the spot if I ask you to repeat a comment that you made yesterday?
Yeah, but I'll do it anyway. What I said yesterday, and this image that I got into my mind is when I was trying to do my work before, when I was using all the, let's call them traditional methods, it felt like I was handling one of those things that we figured out yesterday is called a mobile that hangs over babies' cribs. And if you touch one bit, the whole thing will move. And I never felt that I had a firm place to stand on. So I could actually say, okay, I know X, and from this X, I can deduce Y and the Z and the W's and all that good stuff. Finally, when I found that method, that book and all that, Hot Sauce Profiler, as it was called back then, I finally thought, okay, I've got something to stand on. I can deduce the rest from here.
I can remember, Gumi, one day you came to me in the office, which is just across the street from where I'm sitting now, and you said something to the effect of when you hired on with us, you were really nervous because you didn't know all the things that your peers seem to know about all the V dollar and X dollar tables. Do you remember that conversation?
Yeah.
And then you said, I believe the punchline was, and now I'm glad I didn't because I see people having a hard time unlearning that crap. So that they can actually make room in their mind for a more deliberate process.
Yeah.
And then, Jeff, tell everybody what it was like to have this guy follow you around everywhere you went and ask questions about every single step you took. I think that's where the Police got that song from, that every breath you take thing. Because I think every time he took an inhale, I was there.
It was comforting in one sense to I guess be aware of where I might be thin in my thinking. But in another sense, it was a little bit frustrating to be challenged. So it's good on the learning side, but it's a little bit frustrating to think that, 12 years working in the Oracle world, and having these patterns of behavior and then have it being disrupted. So it was good and it was bad all at the same time.
The dominant recollection that I have is he was just so patient, because literally he would do something and I would go, why'd you do that? And hopefully it wasn't that abrupt that I would ask, but that's essentially the recipe. Is everything he did, we both challenged. And I think we both fell into a groove, which we use today of, look, we're not attacking each other. We're attacking a common goal, and we're on the same team attacking the goal, not on opposing teams attacking each other. And in the end, we figured out, you know what? We kind of only need the trace data. When we get the trace data, probably 98% of the time, we don't need any more data. When we get the other data, 98% of the time, we need more stuff. And we need to go back to the client and ask, hey, I'm sorry to bother you again, but can we collect more stuff? And so that's kind of the process that took us to where we ended up with a method that we feel like we can actually explain, that somebody in, one part of the world is going to come up with the same answer as a totally different person from a totally different culture in another part of the world, if you just follow the steps. So I'll mention a couple things. The book, the Tracing Oracle book, has been out for 2 or 3 weeks now. The How to Make Things Faster book, which is published by O'Reilly, was out as of Friday last week. And hopefully every human on the planet will buy a copy of that one. And then those of you who are Method R Workbench licensees, hopefully you picked up your new copy of 925, which Jeff and I released last week. I believe it was Wednesday or something like that. All right, let me go on to the final slide, which is the QR code on it, and say my due. This was Fill the Glass, a weekly podcast that I record live on Zoom. I'm Kerry Millsap. If you'd like to join us, visit methodr.com/filltheglass. If you need help with performance of either your systems or your people, please reach out to us. We have software, training, and coaching. We can help.